The old Athens community pool is gone and a new pool is on the way for next summer. We have the latest. And President Trump is talking tax cuts and reforms for the middle class. Find out what this means for jobs across the country.
And in sports, the NCAA and FBI are cracking down on one major college basketball program. Newswatch starts right now.
Broadcasting live from WOUB TV in Athens, this is Newswatch.
Construction for a new pool in Athens is on path to finish this summer. Good evening, I'm Jacob Solleather. Thanks for joining us. Athens Mayor Steve Patterson said he's happy with the progress he has seen so far. Construction of the new pool at the Athens Community Center continues to stay on target. The new pool will cost around $7 million. It's being paid for by income tax levy, which was approved by voters in 2015. The old pool was 45 years old, and Athens Mayor Steve Patterson says he is content with the progress thus far.
The current situation as progress meeting this morning for the pool is that things are pretty close to being right on target with getting things done. You can see around us that there's been a lot of fill that's been put in. The old pool has been removed, as well as all of the accessories, minus one thing, which is the shelter house, which is on the far.
Construction of the new pool will be completed in May. Local environmental activists are saying a federal agency is ignoring their concerns and protests over the leasing of land for oil and gas development in the Wayne National Forest. The Bureau of Land Management officials held a third leasing auction of the Wayne National Forest today, leasing another 141 acres to develop oil and gas reserves in Monroe County. Environmental activists are concerned with the third auction because of how close the planned route of the Rover pipeline, a pipeline that will deliver processed natural gas from fracking Utica Shale to delivery points in northern Ohio and Michigan.
All these auctions are going to happen until a judge or a court looks at the lawsuit. The protest is one thing, and the Bureau of Land Management always dismisses the protest.
The senior attorney for the Center of Biological Diversity, Wendy Parks, said the legal litigation for the lawsuit could take between 1 and 2 years before a decision is reached. An online charter school that is locked in a legal battle with officials has received initial approval to become a dropout prevention school. Ohio's Department of Education agreed to the change for electronic classroom of tomorrow, coming this Monday, awaiting an inspection confirming its students are between the ages of 16 and 21. The school says more than 50% of its students meet the age requirement and would be considered at risk, which qualifies it for a dropout prevention status, allowing the online school a more lenient state report than traditional schools. The Ohio Department of Education released data that shows schools in Southeast Ohio are failing in the department's report card system. The data also shows nearly 90% of school districts in Ohio received an A or an F in the indicators met category. President of the Southeastern Ohio Education Association, Bill Van Pelt, says areas affected by poverty are performing worse. MEG Superintendent Scott Geen and other educators in the area say the accuracy problems are with the ODE's grading system.
But when you look at it across the board and you see that your state averages are that low, that the question I have, is that really a good indicator of how we're doing as a state? And I'm not sure that it is.
Next week is Fire Prevention Week, and the National Fire Protection Association. I'm sorry, we're having technical difficulties. We'll toss it to Taylor in the Weather Center.
Good evening, I'm Taylor Nimmo. Another hot one today in Athens, but we sure saw that sunshine today. But good news, we are going to see those temperatures drop in the days ahead. But first, we're at about 81 degrees right now. Dew point is at 57 degrees, humidity at 39%. Now we are going to see all around the region, we're still in those upper 70s, lower 80s. Athens is 81, Marietta 78, New Martinsville 79, Columbus 81. So that's what we're still seeing, those higher temperatures right now, but that will change. As we look at the next couple hours, it's mostly cloudy right about 7 p.m., but as we go into 8, it's going to clear out, and those temperatures are going to start to drop into the 70s and the lower 70s. And it's going to be mainly clear tonight, so it's looking like a good night ahead, Jacob.
Thanks, Taylor. I know a lot of people will be looking forward to the less humid weather that we've been getting lately. The Athens Fire Department is scheduled to visit local schools next week to teach students the importance of fire safety. A city council member is calling for a state of emergency. Says the place you feel the safest could be the most dangerous. Your home is actually the place most at risk of a fire, and many people are unprepared for it. The NFPA says flames are spreading quicker in modern homes because of the materials in our furniture. They say to make sure there are 2 exits out of every room. While it may seem like there are minutes to escape, it can quickly turn to seconds.
Modern furnishings that we use are made with synthetic fibers that burn very quickly, and they also create black toxic smoke that's extremely hard to see through and difficult to breathe in. And so very quickly the products that a fire burns in a home fire situation make it difficult to see and breathe and make it really hard to get out in a really short window of time.
The Athens Fire Department is scheduled to visit local schools next week to teach students the importance of fire safety. A city council member is calling for a state of emergency in Cincinnati. Concerns are growing about the safety of a police headquarters building after following a number of employee deaths from cancer. Tom McKee reports.
I want them to have another place to work for before Christmas.
That firm deadline came Tuesday from FOP President Dan Hills. The reason? Cancer deaths of officers working in the 60-year-old District 5 building. City Council member Charlie Winburn has a different idea.
They need to close this place down in 30 days and find the money for taking care of moving these citizens out.
Hill says it isn't healthy to work in the building despite city testing for radon, mold, and other things that shows no link between it and the cancers. But he cites the 6 cancer deaths. The number with cancer could be 30. One more was added Monday. Will there be a job action if the deadline isn't met?
Cincinnati police officers are proud, they are duty oriented, and they will not walk off the job. What actions I'll take or what actions the union will take is yet to be determined.
But Police Chief Elliot Isaac says a solution is in the works.
I don't see any reason why we can't do this before the end of the year. My desire is to do it as quickly as possible.
That involves remodeling this former bank building in Camp Washington to temporarily house about 35 officers.
We're in the process of seeking out what legalities we need to go through in order to obtain that space now.
The issue has now been inserted into the race for Cincinnati mayor.
Out of an abundance of caution, we understand fears, and so there will be an option for these employees sooner than Christmas, and certainly by Christmas.
We're renewing our very, very stern directive to the administration, as we did in March, that we've got to have a plan right now to get individuals in that headquarter location relocated.
The city of Cincinnati is still waiting on a decision to declare a state of emergency. The Graham-Cassidy healthcare bill has failed for now, but Republicans are saying the fight isn't over. What the future of healthcare looks like next. But first, President Trump announced tax cuts for the middle class and is looking for a tax code reform. These stories and more when Newswatch returns.
These students really have a huge sense of pride in our campus, in our school, and in our education.
People don't come to Ohio just to go to college. They come here to become a Bobcat.
It's a really unique atmosphere.
Bobcat pride is having that natural camaraderie.
Bobcats are just happy to be Bobcats.
My favorite time of year at Ohio has to be homecoming.
When the alumni come back, you can see that the love of this university doesn't fade.
Once you're a Bobcat, you're always a Bobcat.
Hey everybody, I'm Gridiron Glory host Joseph Payton. Every Friday night live at 11:30, we will have a jam-packed show for you with everything that went down on the local gridiron that night. From every touchdown pass to every crushing hit, Gridiron Glory is your #1 source for all things Southeast Ohio football. So please be sure to tune into our show and also follow us on Twitter and Snapchat at Gridiron Glory, and of course like us on Facebook. I promise you won't want to miss out, because remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
I knew that I wanted to come to Ohio University from the very first time I visited here.
There's something about the campus that grabs you.
It was really comforting.
Very welcoming.
It's one thing to write down your name and your GPA and that kind of stuff and send it in. It's another thing entirely to be here and see how great it is.
The campus here is just electric.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Everything just looked really college-like.
I looked at my mom and I said, "This is it." And she said, "The tour's just started." I said, "No, you don't understand. This is it."
My professors really care. They care about my grades, they care about my opportunities, they care about my experiences, they want me to succeed.
They give those opportunities to the students.
My professors have been extremely approachable.
Literally, their door is always open.
You can go to them with pretty much anything. Everyone knows your first and your last name and where you sit in the classroom.
I really never feel like I'm being talked down to or just being taught material. I always feel like I'm having a conversation.
And they want to share those opportunities and those experiences with us.
Republicans unveil some details of a long-awaited plan for tax reform. This includes a tax cut for Americans across the board. The document released today is a long way from becoming law, especially with the healthcare battle, cutting individual property, and corporation tax rates are all on the table for further discussion. President Trump said this is a big step to recovering jobs and wealth in America.
We're going to cut taxes for the middle class, make the tax code simpler and more fair for everyday Americans, and we are going to bring back the jobs and wealth that have left our country.
After the Senate failure on health care, this looks to be an uphill battle climb for House and Senate Republicans. Despite the failure of the Graham-Cassidy health care bill, President Trump vowed today that Obamacare repeal efforts aren't dead. President Trump tweeted, "With one yes vote in hospital and very positive signs from Alaska and 2 others, we have the H-Care vote, but not for Friday." Trump says in addition to planning another vote in January or February, he will look to sign an executive order.
I'll probably be signing a very major executive order where people can go out, cross state lines, do lots of things, and buy their own health care, and that will be probably signed next week. It's being finished now. It's going to cover a lot of territory and a lot of people, millions of people.
Trump also tweeted that he wanted to get rid of filibuster rule. The Senate is unified against the idea. A die-in protest was held on Capitol Hill yesterday evening in opposition to the health care bill. Many protesters said they felt relieved when Senator Susan Collins announced she opposed the bill, making its failure inevitable. Jeff Goldberg reports.
This group of Virginia families of children with disabilities was waiting to meet with Senator Tim Kaine when they heard the news the health care vote would not happen this week.
There were applause. we were very happy.
Samantha and Justin McGovern are the parents of 20-month-old Josephine, who was born prematurely and relies on Medicaid for chronic lung disease. They, like the other families visiting today with Senator Kaine, say they are relieved the GOP bill has failed, at least for now.
I know the fight's not over, but for right now, I'm hoping that this will encourage lawmakers to come to the table to do something bipartisan.
Right now, it's about feeling good about this today, passing this news on to the families, thanking them for their support.
The Republican effort suffering a major setback last night when GOP Senator Susan Collins of Maine said she would oppose the bill, joining GOP Senators Rand Paul and John McCain, effectively killing the bill.
It was clear to me that the Graham-Cassidy bill was not the answer.
Earlier today, opponents of the bill staging a so-called die-in, blocking the entrance to the Capitol subway inside the Russell Senate building. 9 people laying down in protest over proposed health care cuts.
That just opens up people's eyes.
Rolando Campos traveled from New York to be part of the resistance.
Because health care is a right for all. And when you start cutting back health care, you can start affecting the livelihood of millions of people.
Although the bill failed for now, Senator Lindsey Graham says they are still on path to pass the IT. It's just a matter of when. After Roy Moore won the Alabama GOP primary last night by a landslide, President Trump is quickly throwing his support behind him today. Trump campaigned for Moore's opponent, Senator Luther Strange, but moved on to back Moore after Strange's loss. Moore's victory is a blow to the president, who officials say felt misled by his political team, who pushed him to endorse Strange. Still, Trump praised Moore over the phone Tuesday night, and Moore says he's confident he can support the president. Moore is the front runner to win the seat in the December 12th general election. He will face Democratic candidate Doug Jones, a former U.S. attorney. The situation in Puerto Rico is still dire, but U.S. help is on the way. That story's still ahead.
And we're finally going to be saying goodbye to those temperatures in the 80s, along with chances of rain coming our way. We'll have more on your 7-day update, but first, let's take a look at your stocks of local interest.
Professors really care. They care about my grades, they care about my opportunities, they care about my experiences, they want me to succeed.
They give those opportunities to the students.
My professors have been extremely approachable.
Literally, their door is always open. You can go to them with pretty much anything. Everyone knows your first and your last name and where you sit in the classroom.
I really never feel like I'm being talked down to or just being taught material. I always feel like I'm having a conversation.
And they want to share those opportunities and those experiences with us.
Ohio University students really have a huge sense of pride in our campus, in our school, and in our education.
People don't come to Ohio just to go to college. They come here to become a Bobcat.
It's a really unique atmosphere.
Bobcat pride is having that natural camaraderie.
Bobcats are just happy to be Bobcats.
My favorite time of year at Ohio has to be homecoming.
When the alumni come back, you can see that the love of this university doesn't fade.
Once you're a Bobcat, you're always a Bobcat.
I knew that I wanted to come to Ohio University from the very first time I visited here.
There's something about the campus that grabs you.
It was really comforting.
Very welcoming.
It's one thing to write down your name and your GPA and that kind of stuff and send it in. It's another thing entirely to be here and see how great it is.
The campus here is just electric.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Everything just looked really college-like.
I looked at my mom and I said, "This is it." And she said, "The tour's just started." I said, "No, you don't understand. This is it."
Hey everybody, I'm Gridiron Glory host Joseph Payton. Every Friday night, live at 11:30, we will have a jam-packed show for you with everything that went down on the local gridiron that night. From every touchdown pass to every crushing hit, Gridiron Glory is your #1 source for all things Southeast Ohio football. So please be sure to tune into our show and also follow us on Twitter and Snapchat at Gridiron Glory, and of course like us on Facebook. I promise you won't want to miss out, because remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
Good evening, I'm Taylor Nimmo. Now, we know we've been seeing those temperatures higher than usual, but we are going to start to see temperatures more like fall. But right now, let's take a look. We're still in those upper 70s, lower 80s. Athens is 81, Chillicothe 79, Jackson 80, Ironton 82, Cambridge 77, so we're still seeing those high temperatures, but it's going to change soon. But today the high was 89 degrees, low of 58. Now the normal temperature for today is a high of 71, low of 52. And take a look at this. Almost close to breaking a record today, 91 degrees in 1891. So we're just 2 degrees away from a record-breaking day. And the low record in 1991, 35 degrees. Now, if we look at our hour by hour for the next few hours, we'll see at 7 o'clock it's going to be mostly cloudy, 81 degrees, but we'll start to see the temperature decrease, 76 degrees at 8. Those clouds are clearing out. It's going to be mainly clear in 72 degrees at about 9 o'clock. It looks like a good night ahead. Now, we do have a chance of rain later on, but that's not again till early morning. And we'll come across and look at tonight, slight chance of rain, 61 degrees. Partly cloudy. It's a nice night. It's going to be pretty cool, and it's going to cool down and feel pretty nice compared to what we've been seeing today. Overnight lows, 61 in Athens, 64 Marietta, all around the lower 60s here, 64 Columbus, 62 in Chillicothe as well. And tomorrow at the bus stop, taking the kids to school, it's going to be a nice cool start to your Thursday, partly cloudy, and we will have a slight chance of rain, but only about 20%, and that's at 8 o'clock. But as we go on throughout the day, we're going to start to see the sun, and it's going to feel pretty nice. It's going to start to feel more like fall, 68 degrees, at noon, and we'll go back up to 72 at 4 o'clock tomorrow. But tomorrow, temperatures around the region are going to be in the 70s. That's going to feel pretty nice. 73 in Athens, 74 in Marietta, 74 in New Lexington. But let's take a look at your extended forecast. Tomorrow's going to be 73, but look at the low. Tomorrow, 46. So you're going to want to, make sure you bring a sweatshirt, jacket, whatever. But as we go on throughout the weekend, it's going to drop down even lower. Saturday, 68. And as you see, your weekend is looking pretty chilly. 69 degrees on Saturday, partly cloudy. It's looking pretty nice, but grab a jacket in the evening. It's going to be 54. And on Sunday, we'll see a nice 73 degrees, so it's looking like a great weekend ahead.
Now that looks like the fall football weather that we're all used to. Thanks, Taylor. It's been 1 week since Hurricane Maria's landfall devastated Puerto Rico. Right now, the island is with no power and sweltering temperatures and running low on fresh food and water. Karen Kaifa has the latest from Washington on how the federal government is trying to help.
Help on the way. A military plane carrying 3,500 pounds of bottled water, ready-to-eat meals, and other crucial supplies landed in San Juan from Miami Wednesday morning. Puerto Rico, 1 week after the landfall of Hurricane Maria, is struggling for survival. Nearly zero electricity, half of residents without running water, food and fuel running low. Amid criticism, the federal government says they're dealing with a very different kind of disaster response.
The biggest challenge, of course, with this disaster operation, which makes it very different than responding to a U.S. state here in the continental U.S., is the 1,500 miles of ocean. The only options we have are flights and ships.
The San Juan airport also took a toll in the storm, and flight activities have been limited, with relief efforts taking priority and desperate passengers waiting to board few commercial flights to take them away from the island.
In this condition, he can die any minute in here. We need to go.
Puerto Rico's governor again urging Washington to help the island out during their time of need.
During Harvey, we sent out resources to Texas as well so that they can help in the rescue process. And now it's the time to take a quick decision and help out Puerto Rico.
On Monday, FEMA said more than 10,000 federal staff members were on the ground in Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands also hit hard by Maria. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
Certainly glad to see help is on the way from that devastating hurricane. For sports, I'm Blake Baker. Coming up after the break, a school in Ohio is debuting a sport not yet seen in the rest of the state. We have the details next. And a defending champion in college basketball is facing serious sanctions from the NCAA and the FBI. Catch the latest on that story when Newswatch returns. And stay tuned to WOUB. Here's a look at what's coming up tonight on your public television station.
Everybody, I'm Gridiron Glory host Joseph Payton. Every Friday night, live at 11:30, we will have a jam-packed show for you with everything that went down on the local gridiron that night. From every touchdown pass to every crushing hit, Gridiron Glory is your #1 source for all things Southeast Ohio football. So please be sure to tune into our show and also follow us on Twitter and Snapchat at Gridiron Glory, and of course like us on Facebook. I promise you won't want to miss out, because remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
Ohio University students really have a huge sense of pride in our campus, in our school, and in our education.
People don't come to Ohio just to go to college. They come here to become a Bobcat.
It's a really unique atmosphere.
Bobcat pride is having that natural camaraderie.
Bobcats are just happy to be Bobcats.
My favorite time of year at Ohio has to be homecoming.
When the alumni come back, you can see that the love of this university doesn't fade.
Once you're a Bobcat, you're always a Bobcat.
My professors really care. They care about my grades, they care about my opportunities, they care about my experiences, they want me to succeed.
They give those opportunities to the students.
My professors have been extremely approachable.
Literally, their door is always open.
You can go to them with pretty much anything. Everyone knows your first and your last name and where you sit in the classroom.
I really never feel like I'm being talked down to or just being taught material. I always feel like we're having a conversation.
And they want to share those opportunities and those experiences with us.
I knew that I wanted to come to Ohio University from the very first time I visited here.
There's something about the campus that grabs you.
It was really comforting.
Very welcoming.
It's one thing to write down your name and your GPA GPA and that kind of stuff and send it in. It's another thing entirely to be here and see how great it is.
The campus here is just electric.
Absolutely gorgeous. Everything just looked really college-like.
I looked at my mom and I said, this is it. And she said, the tour's just started. I said, no, you don't understand. This is it.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Blake Baker. Big news out of college hoops today. Following yesterday's announcement from the FBI, Louisville's athletic director and head basketball coach Rick Pitino were placed on administrative leave. The FBI confirmed Louisville is one school guilty of bribing star high school athletes. The scandal also involves a top Adidas official and bribes as much as $150,000 paid to high school players. The program is still suffering sanctions after a 2015 investigation into coaches hiring escorts for high schoolers on recruiting visits. Well, here's some good news out of the NCAA. One school in Ohio is doing something no other school has done before. Tiffin University is adding women's wrestling as its 26th varsity sport. Tiffin becomes the first university in Ohio to offer women's wrestling and only the 30th program in the country to do so. The Dragons will begin their inaugural women's wrestling season in 2018. Now that it's enacted a program, Tiffin's focus going forward will be growing the sport for girls at the youth and high school levels. Each week, the Mid-American Conference names one or two players of the week for each sport. And for women's soccer, a couple of Bobcats swept this week's awards. First up, Hannah Jaggers earned Offensive Player of the Week after scoring 2 goals this past weekend, both of which were game winners. Sydney Malham was Defensive Player of the Week. As Ohio's goalkeeper, Malham saved 14 shots and allowed just a single goal through 2 games. Both performances helped the Bobcats to their first 2-0 start to MAC play in 10 years. And it wasn't just a good week for Bobcat soccer either. Kendall Ballard notched 3 points for the Green and White this weekend, and with that, she also earned MAC Offensive Player of the Week. The junior recorded 2 goals and an assist, not to mention she put up 11 shots total. Ballard currently ranks 4th in the conference in shots and 5th in shots per game. She also sits at 34th in goals per game in the entire NCAA. Just 6 days stand between baseball fans and the MLB postseason, which means the regular season is still underway. The Cleveland Indians have 5 games left, but fell last night at home to the Minnesota Twins. The Indians held a 6-4 lead heading into the final 2 innings before the Twins rattled off 4 runs to complete the comeback. The 8-6 win gives Minnesota some momentum as it fights for the final American League wildcard spot. But don't fret, Tribe fans, Cleveland is still in contention for home field advantage throughout the playoffs. From the American League's best team to the National League Central's worst team, the Cincinnati Reds lost a division matchup last night to the Brewers on the road. Despite one more hit in the game, the Redlegs never led, and with the loss, Cincy falls to 7-10 in the season series with Milwaukee. The Brew Crew, on the other hand, sits still 1.5 games back from the wild card race. That's all your news and notes of sports today. Here's Taylor with your final weather.
Thanks, Blake. Let's go ahead and take a look at your extended forecast. Tomorrow, we're hitting the 70s. It's looking pretty good. We're going to the 70s and 60s for the rest of the week. We have a slight chance of rain until Sunday, but other than that, it's looking like a great week ahead.
Thanks, Taylor. And that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. I'm Jacob Solleather. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest news anytime at woub.org. Thanks for watching. I just freestyled that.
I'm Gridiron Glory host Joseph Payton. Every Friday night live at 11:30, we will have a jam-packed show for you with everything that went down on the local gridiron that night. From every touchdown pass to every crushing hit, Gridiron Glory is your #1 source for all things Southeast Ohio football. So please be sure to tune into our show and also follow us on Twitter and Snapchat at Gridiron Glory, and of course like us on Facebook. I promise you won't want to miss out, because remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.